Okay. We're good. Okay. We can take attendance. All right. I guess I'll be glad to stop. Say a loud please. Eric. Here. Samuel. Yeah. Allie. Here. Alan. Here. Darwin. Josh. Here. Penny. Here. Becla. Anna. Here. Callum. Callum. Blaine. David.
Yep.
Josh. Sierra.
Present.
Alejandro. Here. Jake.
Here.
Joseph.
Here.
Okay. DGLM. Ainsley. Arya. Okay. Guillaume. Udbay. Rhea.
Here.
Sahana.
Here.
Anthony. Griffin. David. Arush. Darren. Raja. Athena. Joe. Nick. Meghana. Noah. Timothy. Faith.
Here.
Yes. Okay, so I guess we'll get started. So this lecture is going to be on paperless debate. Depending on where you want to debate, some of this might sound really basic, and we'll get to like some more advanced things a little bit later. There's a little bit like order of the lecture on the sidebar if you want to know where we're at. So part of debating in like the modern age is that you have to know how to use a computer, and like you cannot just use the excuse of I am bad at using technology in all of your debates, because that is not a sufficient reason to get out of doing correct speech times, correct speech documents, etc. Most questions that you all ask about, paperless debate can almost always be solved via Google. It's like your best friend. It has the answer to like almost every problem in the entire world. It's great. So just like if you don't know how or like why your macros aren't working, you can easily Google that, and there's like a setting in Word that enables you to disable macros, for example. Okay, we also have an office tech related staff. So if you have any like technology problems, there's Nikki Brooks in the SDI office. So if there's any problems with like computers, chargers, you should probably go talk to them, and they will have like a good idea of what's happening. Okay, so I'm going to start with verbatim. How many of you all know what verbatim is? It's a great start. Okay, so I'm going to breeze through this thing. So verbatim is a template that most debate folks will use to help facilitate sending arguments to speech docs, cutting cards, organization, posting the wiki. It has like a whole host of features that are really beneficial. Okay, so if you don't know how to install verbatim or you don't have verbatim, you can go to the paperlessdebate.com website /verbatim, and we'll have an installation process for you. So in this case, I'm on Windows, so I would download the Windows version. And then I would open up the program installation file, and it will pretty much walk you through this process. Does anyone not have verbatim here? Can you raise your hand? Okay. So I will go over this in some depth. So when you open up the verbatim installation process, it will open up like an alert bar, and then once you start the installation process, it'll force you to get out of Word, and then once you've installed it, it will basically be in verbatim. And I'll go through like what happens after you install it. Here's that most people have verbatim installed. Okay, so once you have verbatim installed, the initial setup process, you should start with going to settings and filling out most of your generic information. This is important for later in the lecture because we'll talk about how to move things into speech documents and how to put things onto the wiki and use virtual tubs and connect it to your Dropbox. All of those require having some of this information filled out. So how many of you all know what tab room is? Tab room? You know what tab room is? Okay. Tab room is where a lot of pairings are posted, and where you might get information about your judge and your opponent. So there are, in fact, settings in verbatim that will help you title and send and save documents based off of who your judges are and who your opponents are, if you have their emails previously saved. Do you take roll rep go or?
Yeah.
Okay, should we do that now?
Did anyone else take it then?
Yeah, I think we both took that.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you're set up.
Go for 1 second.
Okay. Once you've gotten into the settings menu, you should input like name. So in this case, my name, I give the University of Minnesota. I'm Teja. I put my tab role email and password, and then also go into case list and put the information on your case list. So, do you all know what like a wiki is? Do you all use the high school policy debate wiki? You should be using that. It's a very important resource so that you know what affirmatives and negative positions the other students run. And you can actually set up verbatim, and we'll show this later, to where you can automatically send citations from the Word doc directly to your wiki. You don't have to do a lot of the administrative work of like going to a different website and like logging in and doing that whole process. You do it straight from verbatim. Okay, there's also ways to like alter formatting and different styles. So when you like read evidence or you like notice the starter packet, there's different things like pockets, headers, hats, which I'll show you in a little bit. And all of those have different like font sizes. They have different fonts. They have whether you want like boxes around them, how big the boxes should be. All of those are things you can edit in the settings area. And those are like the general important things that are in settings. In addition to the keyboard. So how many of y'all use F keys when you cut cards? Or do you like cut cards? You use F keys, like F1, F2, F3. So verbatim also has F keys. And what it does is it basically it's a shortcut so that you can put in pockets, hats, tags, underline and highlight cards. And those are very useful when cutting cards because it increases like how fast you can cut evidence and drastically improves your rate of doing that. Okay.
Can I jump in here and do this?
Yeah.
Kushi.
Here.
Makai. Mihar. Mir.
Here.
Phoebe.
Here.
Neil.
Here.
Christopher.
Present.
Brian. Sorry.
Here.
Niall. Hunter. Madeline. Haley. Anaga. Danielle.
Here.
Manu.
Here.
Sammy.
Here.
Ava.
Here.
Hannah from Texas. Ian.
Here.
Yeah. Rishi. Claire. Anvika.
Here.
Sanvi.
Here.
Sashi.
Here.
Ben.
Here.
Hannah from Utah. Melanie.
Here.
Argan.
Here.
Devin.
Here.
Jacqueline. Rebecca. David. From the St. Mark's School of Texas.
Yes.
I'm done. Go.
Okay. So generic tasks you can do with verbatim. Some important stuff. I'm going to highlight some of the more common uses that you'll have in Word and go to verbatim. Number one, the navigation pane. This is like perhaps the most important thing. If you don't know how to use a navigation pane, I don't know how you would debate. It'd be like impossible. It's incredibly difficult. So Word has this great built-in feature where different headings will show up on this side called a navigation pane. And you can get there from View. So if you don't have it, if you go to the View tab, there's this checkbox for navigation pane. It's really useful. So like in the DREAM Act affirmative, you can move up and down the file, and you'll notice where like your DA answers, aft versus off case positions will be here, so you know where your off case answers start, where they stop. There will also be sections for each individual DA, like the Supreme Court dissent, the militarism K. It makes it way easier for file organization, so you know where your evidence is. Part of being in debate is not only having the evidence, but also reading and using the evidence, and if you don't have it, it becomes drastically more difficult. Okay, so that's the navigation pane, and as you can see, there's different headers. So header 1, or in what case we call a pocket in debate, is further to the left. Yeah. Sorry, I totally missed it. I can't. Is that better? Better? Okay, So that's the navigation page. You can notice that as you go further to the left, there's like different sizes. So they start further towards the left when it's heading 1, that's heading 2, it's heading 3. This is known as a pocket. So like the big ones, the box, are called pockets. Where it says plan, the second ones, those are called hats. And these are called blocks. Okay. So that's navigation page on verbatim. We're going to do like a little bit of an interactive exercise with F keys. So do you all know how to set up the F keys in verbatim? When we went over this, we go to the settings section, and we go to format, or we go to keyboard, and you set up your F key shortcuts. They should have like some standardized setup in verbatim. They will also be present if you like customize them, you can change them in different ways. Like mine will be slightly different than what you all need to start off with. Okay, so if you open up like, the DreamHack Starter Pack Affirmative, and you mess around with the underlining functions, you can change underlining and highlighting just with the F keys. This makes it a lot easier to cut cards and change tags when you identify evidence. So like you can make these into non-tags, you can make them back into tags, and those are all useful functions for changing different files in the starter pack. Okay, so when you make speech docs, how many of you all use the tilde function? You know what the tilde function is? Okay, so I'm going to give you an example of using the tilde function, and then, so first, you open up the speech doc. There's this great feature in verbatim where you can open up a speech doc and just send blocks directly from one file to another file without having to individually copy and paste them. So on verbatim, in your little debate tab, you have this thing called speech. When you click on speech, hopefully it won't make that noise, and then you can title your speech. It'll ask you to save it somewhere. I'll save it on my desktop for now. And you can send different parts of the blocks. So for example, if someone had read the counter plan, and I wanted to put my counter plan docs in my 2AC speech doc, all I have to do is press the tilde function, which is like that little squiggly line on your computer. It should be like below escape above tab usually. And you can just move all of the blocks at your own wish. So like the Supreme Court DA, you want to move those in here. So now your 2AC is far easier to set up because you can just move different blocks from files without having to like individually go through and copy and paste them. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is just like preparing a speech with a given file. So we sort of talked about this here, but when setting up a speech, you shouldn't try to copy individual cards into documents because that takes an extraordinarily long amount of time. You should try to use the tilde function in order to get an organized speech doc. And when you organize files, you'll notice that each block header, so AF versus the counter plan and the deficit DA, is all under one hat. And all of the blocks are under that hat. So if they had also had the deficit turn, we could add the deficit turn into our 2AC speech doc by pressing the tilde button, and that would create a more organized way to structure 2AC doc and having parts like literally everywhere. Okay, there's some like newer features to verbatim, and some of them I think are a little more useful, some of them are a little less useful. I'm going to start with the virtual tub. Have any of y'all used a virtual tub before? Okay, this is going to be a little new. So, the virtual tub is a really cool feature in verbatim that allows you to access Word docs that aren't always open on your computer. So if you have verbatim already installed, you should go to this button right here, this like weird box button, like right above speech. And you can create a virtual tub. I guess I already have one. So I guess I'll do it for a does that sometimes. Okay. So I'm actually going to do this again because I set this up before the lecture. I feel like I'll show you how to do it again. Okay, so if you click on Create VTub, it'll ask you to create a virtual tub, and it says there's like no path found. Yeah. Okay. So if that error happens, you go to Settings, VTub, and then click Create VTub. And if you haven't created a folder, delete mine. You should go to your desktop. So like. And make a new folder called VTub. Like new folder VTub. I'm gonna call mine. Okay. And then I'm gonna like move file into VTub. Like move on the packet. Okay, so if you like move the packet app into the VTub, and you open verbatim back up, and you go to settings, you go to VTub once again, try to find the VTub, and you go to my desktop and click on VTub. Okay, and then I'm going to create the VTub. Okay. And now I'm just going to process any files in there, and right now I have like the DreamAct starter pack. So I guess I'm on our spot for a while. Okay. So now that we've created a VTub, let's say I open up a new document, and I'm trying to add different pieces of evidence, but I don't actually have that document open. I can open up my VTub, which is this button right here, and there's a file in there that I put in there called the DreamAct. And you can go through and just add different portions of the file into any section. So in this case, I have the 1AC. And you can have this all without that document actually even being open on your computer. So you can maybe like if you want to put in off-case answers, you don't have your file open. You can add all of the off-case answers at one time. Maybe you want to only add like a DA answer and you like forgot to put that DA in your 2AC doc and you don't know what to do now. Well, you can go to the side arrow and in off-case answers, there's like a nice little section that'll let you add whatever you want. Just add front line and then your front line. That's the VTub. Anyone have like problems with the VTub? Like I can talk about that. Oh, yeah, what's up? Oh, okay. So did you make the folder on your desktop? Or it's like you made the folder, right? Yeah. Okay. You should add a file into that folder. So like in this case, I put the DreamAct affirmative that's in our Dropbox, the SCI into that folder. But once you put it into the folder and it's not working, or it's showing. Sorry, what?
The icon next to it.
Wait. So what's the folder? Like wait.
So you know how this like icon says.
Yeah. Yeah. So you should try to like create a different folder. Okay. Try to make a folder again. So I think you might not make the right folder. Yeah.
Can I VTub Dropbox?
Okay. So you shouldn't VTub like everything in your entire Dropbox because as you noticed, it was like slowing my computer down and like has like big pause where it didn't do anything. I generally VTub like common files that I know I'll use in every debate. So like 2AC blocks will usually be in there. For me, I won't put in like our entire Dropbox because it's just like inefficient. Because then you're basically just like doing a Dropbox, right? You're basically just like opening up a Dropbox in Word and trying to open it from there. And that's like still pretty time consuming for Word, and then Word might crash. So like, I usually just put in like at most 4 to 5 files, and those 4 to 5 files are usually good enough. for most general purposes. Yeah. Is grayed out? Are you on a Mac? Okay. So VTub is not perfect on Macs, and it may not work on your computer. If you're on Windows, it definitely will work. I will add my little side push, is that if you don't have Windows, I strongly suggest trying to get Windows in your Mac. You can do it via boot camp, and that's what I did when I had a Mac in high school. It just makes it a lot easier for verbatim, because a lot of the verbatim functions are a little bit messy on the Mac. Like they don't, like some of the functions like VTub don't always work, just the way the coding works on Mac. So, I apologize. That was one for Windows people. There's like some other really cool features with verbatims, like how many of you all have been told to record your speeches by a coach or a lab leader so you can give redos later? Okay. Like you don't always have like a, I don't know, a recorder or like your phone might be dead. There's actually a feature in verbatim that will use your sound, like sound recording on your computer to record. It's like this little record button in Word, and you can press it and it'll record any like speech you give. You can start it, and I can like record this lecture, and then I can stop it whenever I wanted to. Just title it like Teja's lecture. And I can save it. So you can save it by like name, date, at any point in time. You can do all of those features in verbatim. Okay. So there's also timers. So like a lot of people will forget timers in debates and like use their phones, and it looks kind of silly because it looks like you're unprepared. A way to get around that, and I lost my timer all the time. Like I pretty much stole I think like 9 timers from my partner. You can use the timer function in verbatim, which will open up a timer. And in college it's 9 to 8 minutes in high school, and you can change the time to whatever you want: 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, I don't know, you can 20 minutes each, 8 minutes, 5 minutes, and you can start the time, and it'll just go down like you were speaking, and you can actually see the time on your computer while you're speaking. Okay, so next we're going to talk about Dropbox organization and how to organize in Dropbox in a way that is not everything is disorganized. Okay. So this is an example of what we used to do in college a couple few years back. So part of organizing a Dropbox is not having all of your files in one gigantic folder, because that would be horrible, and you wouldn't be able to like do anything. You need to have some sense of organization so that you can quickly identify where files are when you need them. In this case, there are like a whole host of ways to organize files. We always used to separate them by finished files. So like files that everyone can use that are already done. So like your midterms DA, your 1ACs, your like 2AC blocks would all be in a folder called like finished files. They'd be in a place where you could easily find them and access them, and there has to be naming conventions, right? So if you were just to name everything like 1AC1, 1AC2, and then you were like 2AC, and then you didn't specify what it was for, like which app it was for, you'd get really confused. So in this file, we have all app-related stuff. It just says app underscore X thing. So the first file here is app underscore counterplan answers. The second one says app underscore DA answers. And so on. And then for DAs, we call them DAs. For counterplans, we call them counterplans. In case we call them case. And that way, especially because it's at the beginning, so like one of the common mistakes I see is that people will make Dropbox files, but they'll call them like the militarism K. And it'll be just like militarism K. That's incredibly like difficult to find files when you only have the name of the file without like a organizer before it. So when you add something like K underscore, it means that all of your Ks will end up in a similar section. Okay. There's also team folders. So part of getting better at debate and practicing debate is having folders that will store old speeches. So you could go back and look at your speech documents after they're done. So whenever you're done with like a speech, or like after a debate and you're trying to save your document somewhere, we would always save them in our team folders where we would have files for like old debates, like debate round 1 GSU. We put our documents there, and those would be incredibly beneficial for later. We had works in progress, so like whenever someone's writing a file and you've organized people on your team to write a file, we had a work in progress section. So everyone would have their own folder. Here's my name down here, and there's everyone else on our team. And they would basically put all work they were doing at the time into this work in progress folder. And this is very helpful, especially like coaches can keep track of who's doing what assignments. Are you getting your assignments done on time? Are you doing them all at one time? Or are you maybe not doing them at all and like copying files? That's extremely helpful just to know where everyone's at and keep it organized for who's doing what work. The rest of the stuff is a little bit miscellaneous, but we had a folder for practice speeches. So whenever you practice speeches in the lab or like in the squad room, you would put speeches there. Specific for novice and JV people because they don't always use all of the files. So you had a folder for them. Scouting. So scouting is the next important thing that we'll talk about. Is whenever you debate an opponent or you debate someone else, you should remember what arguments they have read because you might have another team that you know. There might be another school that emails you and asks for what arguments the team has read. It's very easy to get lost with all of those documents. You should save them like in a scouting folder. So in this case, we have a folder. We would label it by team. We'd say GSU round 1 versus X team. We have all of our docs in there. So whenever someone asks for a document request, whenever someone asks for an argument content, we'd always have a reference back, especially if it was another person on our team to talk to. Okay, we would store any extra articles or books in an articles and books section. So like we've all been there where we're like trying to cut articles and we like find a bunch of really good articles but we're too lazy to cut them. We're just like, I don't know, I'll just like forget about it and come back tomorrow. You almost will always forget. So we've had an entire folder just dedicated to people who didn't really always want to cut the cards, but just save articles for other people to look at, and then cut them later. The last sort of relevant one is tech. So like we actually had a folder for tech with debate in all of our settings. So like if your team uses standardized formatting, it's great to have a verbatim template in here that everyone can copy out and just use. Okay, the last sort of thing I'm going to talk about before I take questions is file organization and what to do in debates to ensure your technology works efficiently. Okay, so there's a paperless debate that's helped facilitate a lot of organizational schematics that make it so that you can easily pull cards out at any time. Like back in the old days of paper debate, if you lost a piece of paper, you like no longer had that card for the tournament. You'd have to like go back to a printer and print out the piece of evidence. Now you can like move and delete cards whenever you want to, but with that does come some cost of that. When you have multiple copies of evidence, multiple copies of files, they get disorganized and lost. So maintaining file efficiency and organizing your file in a way that makes sense is extremely important. So I'll show you an example of a file that we had this year. So for a tournament, we had our 1AC and our app file, and we had a bunch of stuff, and I'll show you how we organized it this year. So for this app, we had, it was an affirmative called single-payer healthcare, and we had an organizational schematic that had all of our 1ACs at the top. So our 1AC for the tournament was right here. We had our 2AC blocks at the top, and then we had disadvantages the further we went down. There's DAs, there's counterplans here, there's more DAs and terms of case cards here. So like we would organize our files in terms of the argument content. So it would be like 1ACs, 2AC blocks, and then every combination of options, so like T, Ks, counterplans, DAs. If you just sort of have all of your cards in one place, they get like very disorganized and it's very difficult to control. Another thing I'll suggest is separating out your 2AC and 1AR blocks. So like a lot of people will have all of their like 2AC and 1AR blocks combined, so they'll have like 2AC midterms uniqueness, 1AR midterms uniqueness. I'm not a huge fan of that. I think that it's way easier to just have 2AC front lines and then have 1AR blocks for the back end. So you have like, this is my 2AC is a Texas DA, and I read like 2 cards, and I read this like analytic, and then I had a bunch of cards for my partner reading the 1AR if they were ever going to read them. Okay, last section is just like what to do before and after debates to ensure that your computers run effectively. Number 1, before every tournament starts, you should restart your computer because the way Word works on computers, even if you X out a document, there's like a past cache save file that eats up RAM. And if you didn't understand what any of that meant, basically it's just that when you have a lot of Word docs open and you close them out, they don't really all go away. And they will stay on your computer and eat up your RAM. And until you restart them, they can continue to slow down your computer. This is especially problematic for like me because I would have like 45 Word docs open before a debate started, and then I would X out all of them, and my computer would still be really, really slow. So I strongly suggest after every night, or every night of a tournament, or before the tournament starts, you restart your computer. It's just like a good thing to have before the debate starts. Second thing before debate starts, you should always try to have like the relevant documents open. So like if you're the 1A, you should have the 1AC open, obviously. But if you're the 2A, you should make a 2AC speech doc and have it open, because the whole process of like making speech docs, getting the tilde stuff ready, is all kind of like takes a while, and you should all have all that set up before the debate starts. The last thing that I'll mention before the debate is you should also make sure that like your Dropbox is not like frozen, or like this is just like a thing I'm adding because I feel like a lot of people so far at the camp have experienced that the Dropbox no longer refreshes once you've downloaded it hard on your computer. You shouldn't just download all the Dropbox files. You have to download the Dropbox app and make sure you have internet connection so things are updating in your Dropbox. And for some reason that's like shockingly common. Okay, during the debate, you should obviously flow, but there are two things that you need to do during the debate that I think are very helpful in paperless debate. Number one, you should keep speech docs open. So like, whenever you download a speech doc and the 1AC is over, you should just like X out the 1AC, because it'll be referred to back later. And having to like go back into the email chain and opening it up takes quite a while. Okay, the second thing I'm going to say is marking cards during the speech. So you should mark your evidence while you're reading it. The tilde function I think right now is broken, but they are working on fixing it so that you can use tilde to mark evidence. But for right now, you can press the enter. You can press enter a couple of times, and that will mark evidence during the debate. Because the problem is, like, after you all know what marking evidence is. So like cutting the card there, because what a lot of people say now. We all know what that is, right? Okay, just making sure. So whenever you read a card and you're stopping halfway through, you click mark and you're like mark the card. You should always press enter or like have some identification mechanism to know where you stopped if you didn't finish all the highlighting. Okay, last thing is after the debate, you should save all of the speech documents somewhere. And I'm going to do a quick example of how to open source files. So open sourcing or putting up sites online is like a very important part of debate, just to like have access to all of the relevant information for everyone else in the activity. So like whenever you read a 1AC in a debate, you should put it up onto your wiki, and I'll show you where the wiki is now if you've never been there. So if you open up HS policy debate, okay, never mind, it's down. It's very unfortunate. You should go to this link, and there is a wiki here, and I might be able to. Okay, never mind, it shows the board. But anyway, it'll look much better, but there'll be a list of all of the schools that are enrolled in NDCA, and you can go to any one of their schools and see what affirmative or negative positions they've read, etc. And you should also post on your school's wiki whenever you have read a new argument. So that's generally my thoughts for like paperless debating in general. Do any of y'all have questions about paperless debate? Was there like some part of the thing that didn't work for you all? Questions about debate in general? Yeah.
How do I select all the highlighted text from files?
All the highlighted text only. Okay, that's a great question. So there's two ways to generally do this. One is built into verbatim, but I don't really like it, and I think it's slow, so I'll show you all a faster way. So let's just say I copied a bunch of cards into this doc, and I want to know how much of the document is highlighted. So there is a stats button in verbatim. So for the purposes of you reading the document, it'll tell you like how many words are in the tags, like the site and the highlighted portion. But it's kind of slow, and I'm not like the biggest fan, so I'll show you a faster way. You can go to find and replace. So in the navigation pane that we showed above, there is a find button. And in that find button, you click on Advanced Find, Formatting, and you can click Format, Highlight, Find All. Okay, so it'll tell you how many words are in all of the highlighted portion of the document if you click on this like words thing. So I've found all the highlighted portion, and I've also found it to be like 35 words after I decided to look at the highlighting portion. Okay, does that make sense? Get it? Find and replace? Find and replace is a great function for like also like finding out parts of the file that maybe like seeing how many like the tags are and stuff. So, for example, if I wanted to see how many words the tags were in the file, the tags formatting is size 12 and it's bold. So I can use find and replace to go to font, bold, 12 point, find in main document, and it'll tell me basically how long all the tags are. And those tags are 100 script words. Cool? Yeah. More questions? Yeah. So you should be able to, but I've had problems before. So I did use a Mac for debate for like 1 year before I switched to Windows. And you can, I think the button might not always work. So like there's a verbatim button in here for Windows. But the easiest way to do it on Mac when it didn't work was I just like make a new doc with verbatim in it and just like copy over all the parts. Because I think the problem for Mac is that the underlying macro or like the block heading, the block header are all still in the file, but they just don't show up because the macro is not enabled in that document. So as long as you click on like new document in verbatim and then you copy and paste it over, it should still have like all the features of verbatim and the formatting should readjust to your formatting. More questions? So we have like 8 minutes left. Oh, sorry, I missed it. Yeah.
Whenever I click on the VTub button and create VTub, it just says path not found.
Sorry, what?
Whenever I click create VTub under the VTub section, it just says path not found.
So did you go to your settings and set up the VTub folder? So when we talked about the VTub, you have to go to the settings section. And in VTub here, you have to click on this button to find your VTub on your desktop. If you created the folder correctly, so you should make a folder on like some place in your computer. And then when you click on VTub, and open it there, that pathway should show up here. And then you should click create VTub. If you do that whole process, it's still not showing up?
Yeah, I saved it on the desktop, but it's not showing up there either. It still has a path in the settings.
Okay, come talk to me afterward and I'll look at it.
Okay.
More questions about paperless debate, or just debate in general? Yeah. Sorry, say that again? So that's a great question. So whenever you have more than one speech document open, the tilde key will only work for one. So I guess what that means is like when we made our speech doc a while back, to put in some 2AC cards, if I had decided that I wanted to make another 2AC doc, well, let me put all these speech docs. Okay, so this is a speech doc we made earlier in the lecture, and if I wanted to move this econ advantage, and now that I've created more than one speech doc, verbatim is confused, and it will ask me which speech doc do I want to use. So you can only technically have one like speech doc in verbatim's mind open at one time, for the purposes of the tilde function. So I would click on, I want to send it to this speech file, and then it would do that for me when I click the tilde function. So that's a good question. Technically, like speech document in verbatim is just like when you can use a tilde function to send a speech. You only have one of those functionally open at one time. Yeah. No. So you need to have verbatim enabled on the documents that you are using in order to send it to a speech document. So if you have verbatim in general on like your computer and you're using a non-verbatimized Word doc, it will not send over. Any more questions? More questions? Yeah. Is there a hand there? Sorry, just try. Okay, so we have like 5 more minutes, so it's like hang tight, I guess. Luke, do you want to turn on the lights?
Very bright.
Hey, will you small for me? You guys make your picture? Wait, both of us? Yeah, wait.
So I had the same problem for a while.
Oh, were you?
I had